podcast, third space podcast, third space podcast, third space podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Third Space Podcast, episode number 57. Home is where the hearth is. And we don't actually use that phrase in the episode. I meant to use it because I really like the phrase, but I forgot. Oh well. Anyway, in this episode, Daniel and I start off awkwardly, as is now kind of the tradition, talking about greetings. Hello, goodbye, acknowledgement. We discuss how strange it is to ask, how are you? And we actually kind of get carried away on that topic for a little while. And then Daniel asked me a question about light bulbs, a very scientifically grounded question. So we talk about light bulbs for a little while, which actually, I don't know. I found it interesting to think about. I don't know if anyone else will find it interesting or not. And then we discuss houses. Neither Daniel nor I am a homeowner yet, but we have aspirations to own a home. And so we talk about what kind of house we would like, what are the features we would want in a house, what's the most important room in a house, things of that nature. Daniel has some eclectic tastes on homes and home paraphernalia, so maybe you'll find that entertaining. Anyway, here is the episode. Enjoy.
Third space podcast, third space podcast, third space podcast, third space podcast.
Hello, Daniel.
Bennett, hi. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Never been better. Well, probably a few dozen or 100 times I've been better, but I'm pretty good.
Are you in the top 500 days of your, or like not days, but better of your life?
No, probably wouldn't go there. But I'm doing good. Pretty good overall.
Okay, I like it.
How about you?
I haven't slept that well, but that's okay. It's just like 2 days in a row, and that just affects your mood, and that frustrates me. Like my focus isn't as good.
Yeah, man. Sleep is important.
It is.
And
those
beauty sleep.
Do you ever think we could try something, not we, but I mean collectively, the society-wise, like we say, how are you? I mean, there's hello, which is great. It's neutral. It doesn't invite any sort of, but we say, how are you? Is there another, I mean, that's actually, it can be both a light question where you say something like never been better, or I'm on a roller coaster that only goes up, or great, or good, or fine, or thank, whatever. It's just generic. It's just an exchange that is insincere largely, other than the sincerity is I see you, and then it's I see you. Like, is there another question that we could ask, sincerely or not, as just a greeting? Like, hey, hungry? No. Like, I don't know. We laugh, but like you're asking how are you? And it's weird to be like, well, I've been kind of, all right, see ya. Like, that's weirder than hungry. No. Okay. Or yes. Like, what? I don't know. Like, it's no less weird. It's, in fact, how are you can be deeply personal. It's like,
sure.
Man, how are you?
I think we've joked about this before. Like, I seem to remember a story about the Taco Bell drive-thru. And they started asking, right when you pull up, hi, how are you? And that's how they start. And
yes, which is a bizarre corporate mandate.
They don't say, can I take your order, or welcome to Taco Bell. Maybe they say, welcome to Taco Bell. How are you? I don't remember exactly, but they say, hey, how are you?
How are you? It struck me. It's like, this is weird. It is usually, can I take your order? Which is totally fine, by the way. I have no complaints about. Like, that's what I expect.
But we joked about, I don't even remember what was going on in my life at the time.
But
me saying like, oh, it's not too good today. I had a argument with so-and-so, and work is just real tough, and oh god,
Boss
it's just not a great,
the grind.
Not a great day today. And
anyway, I'll have a burrito.
I really wanted something better for dinner, but the bank account's kind of tight today, and I just gotta get that burrito. So why don't you give me 2 of those burritos, please?
No onions, please.
No onions. Also no onions.
Also no onions. Extra sauce, please. It's just very funny.
I really like that you remember my Taco Bell order. How are you? It can be, you can be opening a can of worms asking that question.
So can we do better? Like, is there just a better sort of like, I see you? What's the
purpose? Yeah, what's the purpose of those words that you say? It's basically just to say, I'm paying attention to you, you're paying attention to me. We've initiated an interaction at the most surface level. So would it be something like, "Do you see me?" or "I see
Yeah.
you," or
I see you would be the most
"Are you paying
explicit.
Are you paying
Human?
attention to me?"
Human. Human. I mean, that it's funny because it's almost calling it out too much, but it's like, I see another human, and you seem friendly. I'm like, how about that? Yeah, you seem friendly too.
My attention is on you, other human. Is your attention on me?
I value the social fabrics enough to acknowledge your humanity. Do you acknowledge the social fabric enough to acknowledge my humanity?
Yeah, we need a nice acronym or abbreviation for it. You know, the word goodbye is "God be with you," essentially. That's the
be
origin
with
of
you. Goodbye.
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 Yeah.
God be with you.
So
And
does hello mean something in that way?
I don't remember. I was trying to think of that, but I don't recall. It probably does. But I
Because
think I have
honestly,
it on
hello
my-
is good, and greetings is a more. It's literally saying it's a greeting, and you're just saying this is a greeting. That's a weird greetings. This is a greeting.
right. Of all the greetings I could choose, I'm not going to choose one. I'm just going to say the category of greetings.
Acknowledgement.
Yeah.
That's funny. to
That's a
say.
good replacement. We should use that. Acknowledgement.
Acknowledgement.
Daniel. Acknowledgement.
Acknowledgement. Let's just. Can that be our new opening? I
think-
we remember.
I think we need to say acknowledgement and acknowledgement of the stolen land that we are currently on.
Yeah,
So
because that
we
matters to people.
We need to do both. At
really
least. Maybe,
helps.
Actually, maybe acknowledgement captures it all, right? Like we acknowledge everything. So I acknowledge your
Acknowledge it
humanity.
can be neutral too. It doesn't have to be like I enjoy you or I'm being friendly. It's just
Right, or I
but it is
regret stealing
courteous,
this
or I
land.
regret. It's
Yeah.
just acknowledging. Acknowledge all of history. Acknowledge all of the potential futures. Acknowledge the present. Acknowledge you, the individual. Acknowledge humanity. Acknowledge all potential listeners in the future and past and current.
And
Acknowledge.
multiverses, everything,
And
all of it.
multiverses. Let's just take a second. Well, how long in order to truly, and since we're saying we're acknowledging it, we better do it. So should we spend 4 or 5 hours at the beginning in silence to give our
Yeah.
the appropriate moment, even if I'm swiftly acknowledging to my mind's capacity?
Right.
It's going to take a second.
It's going to take a while. Can we all just pause to take a day of silence to acknowledge these things? All of
How long do you think you could get
knowledge.
for? How long do you, if you said I would like to take a moment of silence for, and let's just say it's a serious thing that everyone agrees, some tragedy had just unfolded the day before. How long before?
People get uncomfortable? And,
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. Probably that's a prank that someone has done.
And but would they pull it off after an actual tragedy when that acknowledgement? It'd be funnier to do something like acknowledge the stolen land, and then in terms of it's not an immediate tragedy, it's not hot. Even if you agree with the sentiment, it's not hot. It's not recent. So
Yeah, it would be really funny if there was a prank, like some organization or lecture or something where you can imagine the certain kinds of attendees, and you get your speaker up there and they say, hello everyone, I'm Dr. Johann Mickelson from whatever university, and I'm here to talk to you today about whatever it is, the economics of blah 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 blah. But first, before we get started, I just want us all to take a moment of silence to acknowledge the land that we're on and that it was stolen from this nation's indigenous people. And then you look down and close your eyes and just stand there, and then you
solemnly
just don't move. Like don't move, don't look up, don't open your eyes, just stand there and wait. And maybe the talk is scheduled for an hour and you're just not moving. You're just not going to say anything else, not even going to give the talk or whatever. That would be hilarious. And to see like how uncomfortable the audience gets, and when there's going to be some whispering. Are we still supposed to be silent? And kind of ribbing each other, and then maybe someone like coughs or stands up, and at that moment the speaker is we are acknowledging the stolen land. Surely you care about the stolen land, and you're willing to take a moment of silence, because of course millions of people were silenced permanently because of the decisions of our ancestors. So surely you can spend just a moment of your own time. So it'd be very funny.
Undefined moment.
Yeah, moment. Who knows how long a moment is?
Because I think people anticipate a moment being 10 to 15 seconds. And then I think after that, they start to readjust. I can imagine that, like, oh, we're really settling in for a moment. And in that, still an individual thing, but that might be like a minute. Like, you could go, okay, we're in this moment. Let's do it. And that's about a minute. After that minute wears off, you're starting to go, okay. And let's just say you're totally devoted. You're like, all right, this is legit. I didn't know I was in for this, but we're into a 5-minute moment. We're in a moment. This is the best, most gracious participant, right? Yeah. And so about 5 minutes goes by.
That's a long time.
I mean, which is way too long. Even then, this is unrealistic. I'm just the most gracious, unrealistic. Like I am. Yeah. I meditate all the time. I'm cool with this. Like, good on this person. I want my social justice points, like 5 minutes goes by and you start to wonder. I mean, I really honestly think most people start to wonder at about 45 seconds.
Yeah.
That's what I think. About 45 seconds, the average person is going, okay.
I mean, I think shorter than that. Like, I think like once you make it to 10 seconds, it's like, all right, there's the moment. And then people, they're not willing to break the silence until like maybe 45 seconds. And that's when they're looking around and making eye contact with, their roommates and stuff. Yeah. And then it just escalates from there.
I mean, I've seen moments have been too brief before too. If it's something like, all right, 9/11 happens, it's like, all right, let's have a moment of silence. And thank you. I'm like, whoa,
yeah, that's pretty brief.
We barely. I've had moments. I've participated in a moment of silence that long, and I'm thinking that felt wrong. That was not a moment by my clock,
Yeah. What do you think about moments of silence, organized moments of silence like that in general?
I am gonna say generally pro moments of silence, and in that we're a pretty undisciplined collective, and there's power in stopping what we're doing. We're increasingly fast-paced society, and we're probably losing moments of silence. We might be able to revisit this podcast in 20 years and go, remember moments of silence? That's weird. We haven't done that in, a long, like post-COVID era, they were done or something. I don't know. And so it's a suggestion that we do hold some things as holy in society. And I want us to hold some things holy and say, there's not much we can do, but we can sit still for a moment. And the idea of collective brain power, I mean, this is again aspirational, but if 70% of the room was to say, okay, like I'll take that moment and think about whatever it is, I like that thought.
Me too.
It thrills me.
So. That's what I was thinking too. Like, it seems like attention and focus is something that we should pay more attention to in our modern times, because it seems like individually our attention is fragmented, with our social media and little notifications dinging on our machines all the time and all kinds of stuff vying for our attention constantly. So we're fragmented individually, and societally we're fragmented as well. Our attention is on the next big thing. Our news cycle is a 24-hour fad machine, and all of our trends, come and go extremely quickly. And so, to take a moment and just say, all right, everyone listening right now, put all that stuff aside and let's all think about the same thing for just a moment, however many hours that moment may last.
Hours, yeah.
Let's all be on the same page. Yeah, I think that has some weight behind it.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of it other than saying, I believe currently more ritual would be a good thing, and that's a ritual that is suggesting we hold something important, and I like it.
Amen.
So I got a question for you. I was thinking about this. We did Daniel Does Science last week, and it gets me real science oriented. Really thinking. I don't know why. It just makes.
I thought you were going to get your revenge and ask me about Kesha or somewhat.
No, this is a
Lizzo
little
or something.
simpler. I was just one of my bathroom light bulbs went out, and I thought to myself, "Dang it! Why isn't this better?" Well, it's just like now here's a task that doesn't immediately demand to be confronted.
Because you have other light bulbs in there, presumably.
Yeah, it's a row of light bulbs, and you're thinking, well, at what point do I need to replace? Or do I wait till another one goes? This sort of or just you're well intentioned, but you don't do it because it's just not quite. Even I'm a particular person, and even that doesn't say like, oh, got to fix that right now. Whereas,
same here.
So anyway, light bulbs going out, and then I thought, I've had TVs that last for years and years and years, and I know that. So long story short, like, why are light bulbs like going out so often, and TV lights?
TVs are not going out so often.
They're not just not going out so often. Should we be putting little mini TVs in the light bulbs? Like, should we? I know that's silly, and I also know I want to before I'll let you answer the question, but I'm aware of a couple of things that. You turn light bulbs on for potentially, like, if you're at home and you turn a light on, it could be on for 8 hours or 4 hours or whatever. And TV tends to be like on for the program you watch and then off, and is rarely on for like 8 hours the way a light might be. So I get that, and I also know that TVs aren't as bright as a light bulb. However, TVs are doing other things too, and light bulbs are just doing one thing, making a little light. So. So what's going on? Why are my light bulbs burning all the time? And I'll even buy like a little LED, which I'm like, I recall a long time ago thinking, oh, LED bulbs are supposed to have like 60,000 hours or some crazy nonsense. I'm like, oh, well, I'm just like, we're getting on the border of like never replacing light bulbs. And I'll buy these cheap LED bulbs, and they don't seem to last any longer than the filament bulbs. So is that right? Filament? Is that what's okay? So. Go ahead, Professor Bennett. Like, enlighten me.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Professor Bennett. Before I answer the question, I'd like to take a moment of silence. All right, so firstly, why don't we have TVs in our light bulbs? I guess I'll start there. Well, they're different technologies, and there's obviously different costs involved. TVs you pay hundreds of dollars for, and light bulbs you pay dollars for. So you wouldn't expect the same quality, and certainly not quantity of components to go into a light bulb that go into a TV. And
that's
so that's one.
So
point.
if I bought $100 light bulb, it might last truly like virtually forever. Is that on the market, like some crazy better?
There probably is a high durability light bulb meant for use in rough environments outside and in like deserts.
Hard to change, yeah.
But the real answer to your question is it's about the technology of the light bulb. How does a light bulb work? And we have essentially three kinds of consumer light bulb. You have the ones that you like, the tungsten filament bulbs.
Edison bulbs.
Edison bulbs. These are the classic ones where it works by you just have glass. Essentially, you have a glass bulb and you run electric current through a little metal filament, a little thin piece of metal wire, usually tungsten, and the electricity as it passes through the metal heats it up, and that process generates light. Also, a lot of heat.
They're just glowing, that's what it is. They're glowing
getting hot. Yeah.
And so when they burst, is that just the filament, like the connection breaking?
Yeah, they don't burst. The filament just degrades, and there's no more electrical contact, and so the current can't flow, and it doesn't work. So if you ever
predictable in terms of hours, so they're like there's just been enough of this, or they can say that we've measured this. This is roughly 2 hours or something.
I think they say those usually are about 1,200 hours, something like that, for a filament bulb. I'm sure it varies. You can probably buy higher quality filament bulbs too, but yeah, usually that's about it. And the downside to those is they're really inefficient because all of that energy, electricity is the energy you're paying for. You're losing a lot of that to heat.
Okay,
So,
I got a question for you.
Okay.
If I touch that filament while it's live, do I get burned or electrocuted?
It's a good question. You'll definitely get burned because it's hot.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. But am I getting
prob-
electrocuted because of all the
well,
current?
there's electrical energy running through that filament, so at least for an instant you'll get electrocuted. The question is, I don't know how like physically strong the filament is. If by touching it you would essentially break it and break the contact, or maybe you are a quicker path to ground than the other side of the circuit is, and therefore you either would or would not get the electricity passing through you. I wouldn't be too concerned about it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I would imagine the other side of this. I don't know. Actually, you should try it and tell me how it goes. Well,
Well,
so
yeah, it was obvious that I would get burned, but I was curious about. And then when you said that, it made me think: are there other times I'm being quote unquote electrocuted, but I'm not feeling anything? Like, what do we mean when we say we are electrocuted? Because we have currents passing through us frequently, I would think, or our body is a lot of currents, and then maybe I
And
touch
it's
things
different.
and grounds and.
yeah, it's different. When people say our bodies are filled with currents, it's not the same. Like
It's
in
a
a
metaphor.
wire, no. Well, it technically is electrical current, but it's a different kind. So in our bodies, it's usually ionic differentials. So you don't care about any of this, but
No,
it's not the
we're
same
definitely
as
in like yeah.
it's not the same as electricity going through your power lines, which is electrons being transmitted essentially.
Well, I
And
recently
in your
rewatched The Matrix, and all the machines took care. Like the reason they used us in our little wombs, our little pods that they had, was that we provided them with power. We were batteries of sorts. So, explain that.
I can't explain that one. That must still
Okay.
be in our future. Yeah, it's just a different thing. So like chemically, we have potassium and sodium ions in our body mostly, and we have other things too. But the movement of those across different barriers is what causes electrochemical gradients, and that's what causes things to happen. In our power lines, we don't have sodium and potassium moving around. That's not how it works. We have copper.
So other
So
light
anyway,
bulbs, though.
Anyway, yeah, we have the tungsten bulbs. They're really inefficient because a lot of that electrical energy goes to heat. Then we have compact fluorescent bulbs, which you've seen, the little curly ones.
Yeah,
I'm gonna,
the curly ones.
I'm gonna put those aside for a second. And then we have LED bulbs. That's the newest light bulb technology, and they're frankly the best.
Yeah.
These guys are like the most badass light bulbs that we've had in a long time because LEDs, light emitting diodes, there are really tiny semiconductors. Essentially, they're very stable. They're not mechanically complex, so it's not like you can shake it around and mess up the LED. And they emit a lot of light. We can finely tune the wavelength of light that we want, and they're energy efficient, and they don't produce heat. So it's kind of
They
like
simply don't, or they produce less.
they produce far less heat. They don't function by making something hot and then glow. Like the light is a direct product of the semiconductor function. It releases photons based on the way it functions, rather than we just happen to heat up this filament and that's what generates light. So it directly produces the outcome that we want. They're way cheaper. They're supposed to last for 50,000 hours. I would be highly suspect of, maybe you're buying some cheapo brand or treating them really poorly or something if yours aren't lasting a long time. I bought some LED light bulbs back way before I moved across the country. They must be years old now, and I'm still using them. Like I haven't replaced my light bulbs in a really long time because they're LED bulbs. And
Yeah.
like I'm not being paid by a big light bulb or anything to say this. Like they really
I must
are
have
just
bought a batch and had a weird like a few went out within a year, and I'm like,
oh,
what?
that's
I thought this
very
was,
unusual. They're the best light bulbs, no question.
It makes sense. They're not hot. You can touch them. They're
Yeah.
bright.
Yeah, they're
everything.
bright.
Like in theory, I was like, this is great. They were inexpensive. I mean, why would we even produce other light bulbs except for like a
In fact,
novelty?
we're
thing?
phasing out the other bulbs really because they're worse in every way.
Right.
Unless you're a hipster.
I mean, there's still room for that. I really think, or why not? You could just probably make LEDs that look like filament or something. I don't know. Even
Yeah,
that.
I'm sure they have done that. It probably doesn't quite look it doesn't look as authentic.
Because yeah, exactly. What were the ones you wanted to table for a second? What were they called?
Oh yeah,
Not
compact
photometric,
fluorescent.
compact fluorescent.
The
yeah.
little swirly ones.
Yeah, yeah.
Those came along. I forget when, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, something like that, and they were the new hot thing, right? Like, they're so much more efficient than the other bulbs.
I pictured filament just curling all around it, so it was a lot longer to burn, like a candle wax, like a candle.
No,
like a,
totally different technology. They're like fluorescent lights, like the annoying ones that you have in Walmart or your kitchen or whatever, but in a
That'll
more
look
compact.
like waters in them, and like yeah. Well,
They
I mean,
don't have-
fluorescent lights. I know, but I meant flicker and
Yeah,
like,
they
sometimes,
flicker.
like, wavy and yeah.
Yeah, they have like a gas inside of them and a special coating on the inside of the tube, and when the current passes through, it reacts with like the phosphorescent coating and produces light. Now
Well, I've got an
the
unfair
downside-
question. Well, go ahead. Yeah.
the downside to those is that the gas is like not good for you, and I think those light bulbs have like mercury in them or something, and they're rated for like 10,000 hours. And personally, I had those before LEDs were widely available, and I remember one time, one reached the end of its life or whatever, and it burned like a little hole in the base of the bulb where the tube collects. And I didn't notice it had gone out, but just one day I started to have a really terrible headache. I don't get headaches very often. It's really terrible, felt unnatural. I wasn't sick, I just had a really bad headache. And then I discovered that the light bulb had like just gone out. And I think it was, whatever stuff it let out into
I really don't like that.
my living room just gave me a terrible headache.
I really hate that.
Yeah, so now I use LED lights.
I've always fluorescent lighting, the flicker effect.
Yeah,
it
it's
gives
terrible.
people headaches, and I'm sensitive to it. And then, so we have, I believe, in the workplace, like in my school, like fluorescent lighting that we can adjust to bright and low. And like kids generally like a darker room, and I like a fully lit room. But I swear, man, if I'm more sensitive to flickering light than the average person, when we put it on low, it feels like it's flickering slower. And it's not discernible, but that almost like fanning effect of strobing feels more intense to me, and I get headaches quicker, and I can't prove it. And I would love for someone to come along and say, "You're right, Daniel. The flickering is slower at a lower level, and
don't
even though
think
it's not
that's
as
true.
bright, well, it feels physically. I feel gross when we lower the light to this weird level, the lowest it can go, and these are bright fluorescent lights that are lowered, and it feels something's wrong. I'm telling you, I'm experiencing something physically, not just a preference for low light. Like I actually would like low lighting too, but this feels off. So I just wonder what I'm reacting to.
So I could be wrong on this, I'm not sure. The flickering, I've
I
always
don't
thought
see flickering, by the way. It's just like feels wrong
Well,
at the low level.
I've always
It
thought
sounds so odd to say. Like I just feels wrong, but it does.
so. Our power grid in the United States anyway is 60 hertz, meaning it's alternating current, and you get the different phases, the different peaks, 60 times per second. So we flicker, or if a power source is being turned on and off every peak, then it's 60 times a second, and that's the flicker. Now if some people can hear the 60 hertz, it's at the very, very low end of human hearing, or if you have sensitive equipment, microphones or whatever, you can pick up the 60 hertz noise from all the power lines and everything that are around. So I would think that fluorescent lights would simply use the frequency of the power and flicker at 60 hertz, regardless of what brightness they're on. But maybe, I don't know how they work. Maybe they skip. Maybe when you turn the brightness down, it takes every other peak or something. I don't know how it works. So, I mean, it's possible, but I'm not sure about that one.
I would like to find out why I'm physically reacting to it. I'm not. I mean, I
Probably
guess
just
it could be
weak.
psychosomatic, and I'm just like,
Weak.
yeah.
That's all.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
I'm the
simple.
same. I'm the same way. I don't like fluorescent lights. I get rid of fluorescent lights in my apartment, and in any office I've worked in. I don't use the lights. I bring my own lamps.
Go to lamps, yeah.
Kind of on the same track of home decor and home appliances and stuff. I want to ask you about houses. just kind of broadly your thoughts on houses. You don't own a house, neither do I, but
Yeah.
you aspire to own a house one day, I
I
presume.
do. Yeah.
So, like, would you rather have a house that is brand new, or like an old house with with some character, maybe some history or something like that?
I guess I'd say I care more about the layout of the house and than I do, and I like the idea of character and I like the idea of new. So I'm not opposed to either, and I'm not attracted to one or the other automatically. What I do worry about is new is sometimes cheaper, like an older house, like built 50 years ago. I'd like to know a couple of things. It's more likely to be laid out in an old school way where I want an open kitchen. Stuff like that matters, where the kitchen sort of blends into the living room and it's like open air instead of these sort of shotgun kitchens and the design and layout. So even if you've put in, a nice new fridge and it's got stainless steel appliances or whatever that I don't really care about, but it's got plenty of cabinetry. But if it's just off to the side or in its own separate room, that bothers me more. So you're going to find that in older houses more often.
Yeah.
But older houses, there's something about the bones and the sturdiness of it that, like, some of these, I mean, you see these constructions. I'm imagining there's a lot of efficiency that goes on now, but a lot of cheapness too, whether it's cheap filler or just, learning how far they can space the studs and still be, there's code to protect safety, but, these paper thin walls. I am currently in what I would call a luxurious apartment with just no, like, I hear my neighbors now, they're particularly bad, but like, there's just you would think at a luxury home they would have done, or a luxury apartments, they would have done something for soundproofing and that sort of thing. And so I associate newness with this sort of cheapness too. So that's my concern. But I like newness also reflects our current societal values and how we occupy space a little more. So you're more likely to get a nicer or more amenable layout, something that's conducive to my sensibilities. Also, I don't know where we're at. This is an ebb and flow, but like size of master bedrooms, I don't care. I do want an attached bathroom, and I want it to be an efficient space, but it doesn't need to be big. I don't need it big enough to have a king size and a little
Reading
what do they
nook,
call them? Fainting chairs or
poetry
whatever.
nook.
Yeah. I don't in a fireplace, and it's like I would be fine with a small one, but if you're also buying for the future to sell in the future, like I've heard it can be harder to sell depending on the trends if you have like some small king or master bedroom. So anyway, I want a house. I don't look forward to the unpleasant, like, okay, if my fridge breaks, I just put in a work order and they fix it. I don't have to worry about like the roof or mowing the lawn, all of that. But I'm gonna have to reorient my thinking until, like, this is my kingdom and I am the king. And then all of a sudden, if I'm mowing the grass, I'm the upkeep of the kingdom can be fulfilling in a way. Like, this is my own domain. This is my plot of the land. Like, this is
Right.
my American dream. And so when I orient myself that way and like build little projects and add on, like, I love that. So I have some features that like are important to me or that I would like, but there's things like basements and porches and things like that, and which one takes priority. Spiral staircases and internal brick walls.
Yeah, all of and
But
Edison
new
bulbs, don't forget.
but I'm jumping into it too much. I was going to let you kind of outline where you wanted this to go, but old and new, I think I outlined the pros and cons to me, and so I guess it just depends. It just depends. But I can tell you that a smart layout matters more to me than square footage, because I've really come to believe, like, in a living room, if you put your TV on the wall, which I like to do, and your living room's small, like, okay, I sit nice and close to the TV and it feels cozy. I've been in bigger living rooms where it's like I either had to have a floating couch or like it was just a little too far away, And so I've just recognized that obviously I don't want to be cramped, but once I'm not feeling cramped, I don't need a luxurious space. I just need a room. I would like a guest bedroom. I would like an office, and I would like a workout space.
What's the most important room in a house?
Man, that's a tough one because I love my bathroom time, my little escapes in the day, but also like where you like prep for the day. And in terms of complicated rooms, it's the kitchen and bathroom objectively. They're doing things with piping, plumbing, and electricity and different. So like it would be kitchen number one, and then bathroom. But like your
Yeah,
relaxation.
subjectively, if one room in your house had to be really poor, which room would you not want it to be? Or if you had one room in your house that was really great, which room would you want it to be?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Okay. My not great room would be some guest bedroom. It'd be very plain. Here's a bed.
No, I mean which.
But you mean
Yeah,
of the main rooms?
which room
Not
would you
we're not
want to
talking about
not?
foyers and stuff like that.
I'm saying which room would you not want to be poor? Like, so
Yeah, yeah.
that's what I mean by what is the most important room in the house.
Probably the living room, the place where I'm going to have conversations, watch TV, relax, kick my feet up. Like this is my peaceful spot. This is where I'm gonna like put care into the either whether it's artwork on the wall or the arrangement of the furniture. It's the most important to be precise.
So if you could only have a great living room constructed and filled the way you want, but in order to achieve that, you had to have a really mediocre bathroom. That would be an acceptable
Or vice
trade.
versa. Or
Yeah.
vice versa.
Yes.
Gosh. I'm gonna say yes because I envision a world in which I'm entertaining. So my living room is gonna be pretty outstanding. Maybe even like a bar in it or like some. I mean, I kind of would think that'd be more in like a basement if I have an area like a cool playroom that people are hanging out and drinking and playing pool or ping pong or whatever. But yeah, I think I can deal with a mediocre bathroom. I've had mediocre bathrooms my whole life. I just realized that a few upgrades and a few things that I like, it can be a much better experience. But yeah, I think so. I think I'd be okay with that. Whereas but I think what'll end up happening because most people's values in home, like the homes are designed around the living room, right? The central space, that's already pretty structurally taken care of. There's not much to do there. Whereas the bathroom, I might add glass doors instead of a curtain, install like a pretty like permanent or hefty shower head that maybe rains from the ceiling or something like that, that kind of stuff. That stuff's like expensive or recessed places to put your shampoo bottles or things like that, so it's not just you're buying some caddy that you droop over the shower head and it's just falling off, or a suction cup this or whatever nonsense,
Right.
or heated tile floors potentially if you live somewhere really cold could be nice.
That gets crazy.
Yeah, it does.
Do you think
Yeah.
do you think that if you maybe didn't have any other obligations, you didn't have to work or whatever, do you think you could build a house for yourself?
I love the idea. I think I physically, then why not? Yeah. If it were my life's work, yes. And we're talking about wiring and plumbing and everything.
Yeah,
I
we're
mean,
talking about
geez.
everything. Like you have YouTube at your disposal, or you could
Yeah.
email some contractors and say like, how do I do this, or can I come watch?
And I have my whole life devoted to doing it. Is it just
Sure.
possible?
Yeah, is it possible? Do you think you could do it? Do you think it's within your capabilities to build a house? It doesn't have. I'm not saying you have to put in your Edison bulbs and your rain
I'll tell you,
shower thing, but
there are these house kits that for tiny homes that are really intriguing because they're modular and like you decide what aspects you want and they'll basically ship it to you, and then you typically let's say, because you can look at them and some pretty pleasant ones are like $75,000, some really cool looking ones, and you're like, oh, I want that, they'll ship it to you. Then you got to do things like depending on whether you want it on a trailer or sort of a like almost like a double wide trailer, or do you want it on something like Do you want it like foundation? Do you want someone to come in and pour the foundation, and then you would hire an electrician? But you're saying, so let's just say I was doing this the most feasible way, but I was going to do everything. I would order the tiny home kit, and then yeah, the electricity. I bet I'd have to study for a while, but like run your basics and do some like if money's not the issue, like yeah, I'd like to think I could. I don't think it's worth it because that would require like just all right, this is my life now is learning how to do plumbing and learning how to plumb.
I mean,
And then is that the word? Learning
Yeah.
how to plumb
Yeah.
the. It just sounds weird because I'm thinking of the fruit. So learning how to noun. Anyway, so
y-
so yeah, I think I could, but I think it would be so much trial and error, and I think this would be over years if I'm not in a hurry
Sure.
to. Time is a big part of it. But like, do I contain the intellectual capacity to do some electric wiring? And I just think yes. Yeah,
you get those
electricity work.
sodium and potassium ions really running around in there.
I
Whatever
don't-
ions are.
I also understand fully that like that's more in fantasy land, but there is something like you could take some ownership of the tiny home thing and get a nice nail gun and get to work and feel like you did a heck of a lot, honestly.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about tiny homes because I remember at one point in the past, maybe you had just discovered them or you saw some cool video
Yeah, I follow
about
some
them.
groups on
and you were-
Facebook even. I really like them.
Yeah, you were very into it. Are you still? Does the
okay.
idea still captivate you?
I think
Would
I
you
understand
seriously consider a tiny home?
I not as much. Or here's here's what I'm thinking. I would seriously consider a tiny home in terms of I would have a properly sized home because I realize I occupy space a little. With Danielle, you occupy more. You occupy space differently, and so I want room to
Man spread.
yes, or even just okay. She wants to be doing her thing, and I want to be doing my thing, and I don't want it to be in the same space. And so there needs to be room for that. And if you ever want to have people over, I think you're sort of winding that down with the tiny home thing. So what my ideal world is that we have like I do anticipate us having a house that is smaller than your average house, but it's wisely laid out. And then this is kind of funny if my dad ever listens to this, but like if they want to visit a bunch and they just happen to want to like I want to have a really cool yard and like have maybe potentially a
Pitch a
tiny
tent.
home in the yard that is nice
guest
and
home.
it's a little guest home, and it also is a guest so it converts. Maybe it's like more of a party, like it opens up almost garage door, like they'll have these kind of things, like imagine garage door style, so it's almost like an open air little home where there's a bar or party looking with a big little patio, and it just, you can imagine an ornate or a well constructed backyard with two patios that like, and you can walk from one to the other and like play yard games and stuff like that. And so yeah, that's my ideal scenario, so that guests come and they actually get their own bathroom and house and like
Travel
maybe,
size phonograph.
yeah, like we leave things out like no washer and dryer, but there is a running water, sink, shower, all of that. So that'd be nice.
Do you think how much of the tiny home phenomenon is social engineering? Like when I think about tiny homes, well, firstly, I appreciate the actual engineering aspect and the design aspect to cram, lots of stuff into a small space, and a lot of things are multi-purpose.
Yeah, they're neat. Learning like storage under stairs or like movable cabinets and things like that. That's really satisfying seeing things like that. But social engineering.
Yeah, but part of it also seems like social engineering. Like, we're going to condition people to be comfortable in their little pods with no land, and they can pay they're still going to pay a lot of money for these little tiny pods, and we'll just be able to stack them, end on end or whatever. Or maybe even you can rent your own tiny home, and it'll be for less rent than you would pay in an apartment. It just seems kind of like making people happy with much, much less. Do you think that's a good goal to make people happy with much, much less? Or is there something sinister in that idea?
I think, can the answer be both? Like,
I think
what
it
if that's,
can, yeah.
yeah, it might be for sinister reasons, but but I think a sincerely held belief that this is good. Like I think less things. I like as I think about what matters to me, materialism starts to, that just doesn't rank as high on the list. And so, can I be happy with less things? And a tiny home would force that, and it's a sort of philosophy. But you're right. I think so. First of all, yes to the social engineering question, but I also think the answer is yes to that about whether it's living the city life in the loft. Like, I think even something like Seinfeld or How I Met Your Mother, or these like New York Friends. I think not only is it a reflection of the times, but I think it's an engineering. So like people will like flock to the city and be cool. It's cool to live there, or like, no, I want my big suburban spread out house kind of thing. And I think there's an ebb and flow to it, but I also think there's some engineering going on, some social manipulation. And so you're right that could absolutely be the case. And I've never actually driven by like a tiny home neighborhood or something, but I know that those exist, and that's
you just
thought.
missed it.
Yeah, yeah. And well, theoretically, if they were nice and tiny, and also like had some amenities of that neighborhood, like, oh, we're gonna have some really cool outdoor spaces that are shared, that could all in theory work. But I honestly think it's the single person's dream. Like, it's not like it becomes a whole lot different with a partner, or like a partner and kids and that sort of stuff. And that's when the suburban spread out lifestyle starts to work. And I still want the compartmentalization in a home. So I might still end up wanting a 4-bedroom home, which sounds like I'm starting, or even 5, and it's getting into this, oh, you're getting into these McMansions. I'm like, no. Square footage, when wisely laid out, I think you could still have like very reasonable square footage, like surprisingly small even, just thoughtfully laid out. So I am interested in efficiency, and I also like the idea of like, if I want nice wood floors, all of a sudden if you have a smaller square footage, you can get the really nice for affordable. Everything you do is more affordable the smaller it is. Whereas if you're replacing your windows with top-notch windows and it's a giant house, it's just really expensive.
What about land?
So their privacy is really I don't need acres of woods that I don't use. Or if I have access to trails, but they're not mine technically, that's fine too. So I actually don't want to like own 15 acres or something like that unless I had some purpose. But right now I don't. So that's beyond, like, in my ideal world. Well, first of all, I'm pretty flexible about my living space. So I'd be okay with a yard big enough to, toss the old pigskin in kind of thing. It doesn't need to be big, but I want to be able to play cornhole. Like, I want to be able to have a porch and a little bit of grass. And if I'm in a neighborhood where it's not a lot of like these small lots where we share lines, where fences, I want the privacy fence to be solid, thick, and tall. And I'd be okay with that. But ideally, since we're dreaming here a little bit, is that I would like to not see the other houses, but also live in a neighborhood. I like the idea of a neighborhood. I'm not opposed to it, but in the perfect world, it's sort of like trees and foliage sort of separate us, so they can be reasonably small lots, but it feels really private and it's generally quiet. And even those trees act as sound barriers anyway. So yeah. But I don't need. I want access, also walkability of my home wherever I live. I'm going to go outside and walk, so it's actually a big deal to me. It used to be like, oh, I want to walk to like really cool stuff. So on the weekend, I don't mind getting in the car and driving 15 or 20 minutes for an activity. So I don't need to be, or even I guess 30 if it's a big cool activity. If I'm going to go see a play, I don't need to live next to the theater kind of thing. But but I want my walking, I'm doing nightly, so I want my walking to be nice. And that could be urban or rural, but I want it to be nice and intentional and not just sort of like I've lived in places where the walking is not conducive, so I'm either walking on next to a street with lots of cars in a frustrating way, and it's unpleasant, almost alley type walking. It's not fun, but I've walked in cities. It's really pleasant when So as long as it's a pleasant and thoughtful walk with multiple options too, that's nice.
Yeah, we have some overlapping tastes when it comes to houses, some overlapping desires. I think I guess the privacy is the main concern for land as well. If you're not thinking about the value, I mean, land is valuable too. Um, but yeah, I would like to not be able to see anyone else, any other houses, right? So really, the largest swath of land that I could manage would be best, right?
Yeah. And does that also mean, do you picture yourself surrounded by trees and kind
Yeah,
of thing, or not?
woods. Yeah, woods.
Wood.
I want to have a small portion of like maintained land, and the rest is just woods.
Yeah.
Ideally, that would be great. Um,
Do you
that
picture
would,
yourself
that'd
going
be
down
awesome.
like a winding driveway for
Yeah,
a while, and then it kind of comes to a clearing with the home, but
Yeah.
it's just woods all around?
that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Or like on a mountaintop, really high up,
Yeah, just a mountaintop.
and
Um,
like it's so far. Like actually, where I am now, there are houses like that are up like really high on hills, and like yeah, you can see them from a long way away, but they're so far away that
Would you be fine with that if it were like an hour to a grocery store?
no.
But you
See,
were
that's
like
the
had this
thing.
amazing view, or
Well,
what do you?
that's
Yeah,
that's the problem. Is like I really like being close to stuff. I don't have to be right in the middle of stuff, but grocery store is like the main thing. Like I don't want to have to stock up my freezer and eat frozen
yeah. What's the
food.
furthest
You
you
know?
would? Yeah, what's the furthest you'd get from a grocery store?
I mean, like honestly, we're talking trade-offs here. So if I was getting my mountaintop mansion,
Yeah,
super nice and everything with LED light bulbs, then I would, I guess I would be willing to drive further to the grocery store. But like honestly, 30 minutes is where it's starting to get like, I don't really want to have to drive further than this to the store.
yeah,
But like if I had like some amazing house on amazing property, then I would just suck it up and get a big freezer and just change my food
yeah.
lifestyle.
How hard is it to change your? It just means that now when you go in, you're buying groceries for 2 weeks or something, or maybe three,
Or more.
and
Yeah,
or
more than that.
if you're
And
30 minutes, but like let's say now you really all right, you can afford this, and here's your dream home, but
yeah,
it's
30
an
minutes
hour
I would
15 minutes, like now are
yeah.
you thinking, are you still thinking
Well, that's
carefully, or is
see,
hour
that's
15
the
like
thing.
no way, no way?
Like where I am right now, I live in an apartment, so I'm in town. It takes me like I live 1 mile from the grocery store, so this is as convenient as my grocery buying has ever been. Like I go every week, and I don't freeze anything because everything I can have fresh, and that's
Yeah,
ideal to me. But around and further out in the area that I live, there are amazing homes in amazing locations that are just beautiful in nature, and I would love to live in a place like that. But then it's like, okay, in the winter, when the roads are closed and snowy, like you're not gonna make it to the grocery store, and when
yeah,
you
you gotta
do,
learn how to hunker down for the winter kind of
yeah, you gotta
thing.
learn how to hunker down for like potentially like weeks at a time,
Like
and
they probably own those sorts of end of days food bins
yeah,
for they probably actually have one for
right.
good reason.
If you ask them what the most important room in their home is, they would say the bunker.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I would have to change my lifestyle, right? And it would be, oh, let me do my monthly shopping trip and buy, $400 of groceries, come home and freeze it all, and then, eat the frozen food, which just frozen, when you freeze food is not as good. There's just no getting around that.
Right.
So, but for an amazing home, I would maybe make that trade off. But I
Would
would
you
really like
even
somewhere kind of in the middle, like rural enough where I can have some land, but close enough to town where I could, go to the grocery store without it taking forever.
Let's say there's a mediocre neighborhood in terms of like it's not super nice, but crime's not an issue. You're just like obviously comfortable walking around. That's not. And let's say the house is very fairly priced and it not that privately. You just you're walking in what you would almost call a standard neighborhood house by house, and it is quiet, and the inside you're really pleased with like how it looks, how it's laid out. It's pretty much like meets or surpasses your expectations. It's not size wise, it's not grand, but it is just like, man, this is a cool house. I'm compromising privacy completely, pretty much. How much does that hurt your desire?
Well, I mean, at this point in my life, I don't expect to have an amazing first house, like I'm very flexible in my living standards as well, like you are. So I don't need a huge place. It doesn't have to be on the super nice end. I don't want it to be noisy. That's important to me. And I would like a good layout. I agree with you on some of those points. So yeah, for a first house, I would be willing to, just get some property, just get a house. And
I was gonna ask, why are you even thinking in terms of first house, and why not just go for the like?
Well, that's a good
we're
question.
Not in a hurry, and or maybe we are, maybe for different reasons, but yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a good question. And typically, my own personal philosophy on buying things is buy something good and then you don't have to think about it anymore, and pay it off immediately and then you don't have to think about it anymore, right? Yeah. So if I had the means and the opportunity, then I would just buy a really great, awesome house and not think about it anymore. But the problem is, at different stages in your life, you have different needs. Right now, I don't need, like you said, I don't need a 4 or 5 bedroom home. Like, I make do just fine. My apartment is actually bigger than I need. There's a lot of space that I don't use in my apartment. They don't build houses small enough for what I would actually use. It would be silly. Yeah. But eventually, assuming that I have a family one day, it would be nice to have, I wouldn't be able to fit in a tiny spot. I would need a larger house. So the house couldn't grow to accommodate my needs, not easily anyway. So there's no reason to do that. I mean, if I was just super wealthy, if our podcast was really bringing in the dough, which, maybe it will someday, even though we don't do any advertising.
Man, I would love just to pay. I don't care if it's the quarter, like 25 cents, like a paycheck from someone because we brought value. Like that would be so funny to me.
That would be nice to frame the 25-cent. Paycheck, revenue, Third Space Podcast. Yeah, but like, if I was super wealthy, then sure, go for it. But I'm not, and house prices are totally absurd right now. So it doesn't seem likely. When you say there's no hurry, I don't know. I mean, is it a hurry? Like, is the cost of housing going to continue to rise? In which case, there is a time concern. Or is it going to crash? You don't know. I don't know.
What is something that might like what is a bonus feature, I'll call it, not a deal breaker, but that you want more than maybe you even know you should, like something that might be a little silly, that's not just purely practical and you would love for your house to have, that like that might surprise me a little or anything like that.
Well, it's not going to surprise you that I want a spiral staircase. I love spiral staircases. No, I had spiral staircases first. I like spiral staircases before you did. So
you really do love them and would be really thrilled seeing one.
I like them. They're really cool. Now, would I want a spiral staircase to be my primary staircase for getting between floors? Probably not. Unless it was a large, like really uniquely constructed spiral staircase. That would be pretty cool. If it was the centerpiece of your house, like, the spiral staircase house, like you have the open house and the whole neighborhood comes and marvels at your staircase. Then maybe. But like, how Steven's house has the spiral staircase just going up to that little upper
it doesn't
room?
Anymore, but yes.
What?
It did. Yeah, he built. Did I tell you? Speaking of all this construction stuff, he and his wife's dad, I guess his father-in-law, built a staircase and like built a room, and they've done so much construction, and it's great,
boring
like, professional
staircase?
level. Yeah,
A boring
yeah.
normal staircase?
Yeah, but like from like they've added this
What a
whole against the
tragedy.
wall, and then they added like triple the square footage up there, maybe, or
That sounds
double
awful. I'm so sorry.
They
hear
did.
that.
It's actually really great.
Sounds-
But that particular spiral staircase, though, looking cool, was
Yeah,
like,
you would run
functionally
into it,
in the-
and I get it, but the pros outweigh the cons. Like the sheer awesomeness of a spiral staircase outweighs running into it and whatever other annoyances there were. Like it was a cool thing. Now I don't really care about Steven's house anymore, or Steven himself. Really, come think of it. Now that I reflect on the situation, now that I know that staircase isn't there anymore.
which appeals more to you? Really like a sizable quarter wraparound porch, and it looks great, and it's covered, like, and it has enough where like there's fans even, and like it's like a place you're gonna hang out, and you can decorate it how you want or not, but like it's well done, and let's assume the climate is comfortable for good portions of the year. Or a basement that's pretty sizable, unfinished, doesn't look really cool, has some fluorescent lighting in the bottom, but like and it's just like a blank canvas in a lot of ways. Did you say basement already?
Well, before you told me how crappy it is.
Yeah, it's pretty big. You could fit a ping pong table. You could bring a couch down there, but it is like a box, just square,
So,
like not much going on.
Well, I don't like the way you set up the question, but I would probably choose the basement. I just want to, like, you give me this awesome porch with fans and stuff, but you give me a crappy basement. I don't understand the
Well,
comparison.
because I just think if it was 1-to-1 and was like this well furnished basement with a bar or something, or like potential like I needed to say one's sort of unfinished and one is like, because like it's likely to be the case when you buy a house that like either the front porch is like got the installed fans and it's ready.
Some people love their porch. Some people are porch people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, just
some people are porch.
just trying to avoid an inappropriate joke.
Okay.
That I guess popped into my mind. Intrusive thoughts. Anyway, some people are porch people and some people are basement people, and I'm a basement person. Like I could
basement dweller. You're just
a basement dweller. The things that I would enjoy doing on a porch. Not that I mean.
Touching yourself, whatever. I don't
right.
know what is sitting there.
Public exhibition-ism, Yeah. I'm up on my mountaintop porch. Everyone can see me from all
Imagine
all
how
of town.
good that'd be. You're looking at all
over the whole
worlds.
town. Sounds great.
Like everything the seed touches is our sun touches.
I don't think that's.
All
right. Yeah.
You have a basement,
I like to.
You can set up a TV and video games, and it's well lit. But if you wanted to turn it into a theater, it wouldn't be that hard to do.
Right.
But it's
That's what I'm saying.
Right now, it's white walls and like a fluorescent light.
I take your crappy bargain and I go basement anyway. And I would make a theater room and have a ping pong table, and it would be a place where I could do fun stuff. On the porch, it looks nice. You can sit out there.
Watch the sunset.
You can read. I like reading on the porch. When I lived at home with my parents,
sweet tea, sitting in rocking chairs. I don't know.
When I lived with my parents, they have a decent
do have a really
front
good
porch,
like well above average porch.
Yeah, there's some fans and there's a swing, swinging on the front porch, and I would lay out there and read in the summertime or in the springtime or in the fall, and it was really pleasant to do that. However, as much as I enjoy reading on the porch, like the climate plays a big part, and at least there's pollen most of the time, or cat hair, or you have to keep it clean, and when it rains, the rain blows under there. There's just a lot of annoyance that comes with the porch, and much of the time it's not going to be totally blissful to be on the porch, whereas in the basement it's a more controlled environment. And, there's the fun things you can put in there. So I choose basement in this dichotomy, even though you told me my walls are unfinished. And
Why is it that for a porch, your parents' porch is a great example of a really nice, it's sizable, it's all the things I described, but why is it that it's sort of plain in terms of it's just like the front of the house extends and that's how the porch is built. Now if you give it for me a wraparound porch or a quarter wraparound where like if I were to sit at one end and the other end I couldn't see each other, like it feels dynamic and cool and exciting to me in a way that like your parents' porch, although great and above average, and I give it if I'm to critique it, it is that it's just not particularly visually stunning in terms of it's just there, right? Maybe that's not even the right thing to say. It's not this visual. Maybe it is that it's visual. I don't know. It's just it's right there. As you can see all the porch, and there it is. I think maybe I'm being silly, but the
I agree.
Is so like, wow, I can put my water feature over here and a bunch of plants over here. Whereas yours is like, here's a porch swing and like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. The wraparound porch is, I don't know that I would use the word dynamic.
Is your porch concrete, by the way? What is it?
Yeah.
Okay. And that also it's sturdy, but like I don't know. I need my porch to be wood.
It's well, no maintenance on.
Yeah. But concrete's ugly. Maybe you could stain it in a different color. I don't know. There's something about
it does
gray,
have a special
brushed
top.
Okay. Well then,
but it looks like concrete though. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's built on the foundation of the house, so it's like brick on the sides with
super
concrete
solid
top. Yeah, it's solid. Actually, I don't know if I should disclose this information, but actually, there's a little bit of space under the porch, and there's a secret way to access that area.
I like that I didn't know this.
Yeah,
like that's interesting.
Yeah. So
I'll have to explore that at some point. Really take advantage of that knowledge.
Yeah, well, so I don't know if my dad has anything hidden under there right now or not. Maybe booby traps.
There or not. Yeah.
Could be booby traps. I don't know. So, if you check it out,
beware.
Take your life into your own hands. But it's not totally solid under there.
Yeah.
It would be a lot of concrete to fill up that huge space.
No, that makes
concrete,
sense now.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Wraparound porch, I agree. Aesthetically, they're very aesthetically pleasing. I like the idea of it, but it's a lot of space for a porch, and I don't know what I would do with all that space. Like, I only sit in one spot, and so I don't need all that space. Same thing when I think about houses. I don't need a lot of space. Butt-seat ratio, I don't need a lot of seats. I only have one butt, so really it's pretty minuscule. It really would just be for the looks of it. To make people go, oh, nice porch you have
Plants,
here.
Rocking chairs, swinging.
Right.
Swings,
future people can do podcast episodes and talk about my porch, and that would be the main benefit of it.
I would want to put a window frame, with the glass, like a
stained glass window with like a
hanging
scene
down.
of the crucifixion or something.
But that's intense. But
that's not where you were going.
No, it just meant like you take the window and frame and the glass and you hang it in the above the railings, from the porch. Something cool
window
like
glass above the railing. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Like a decoration.
I'm doing a porch. Yeah, it's a decoration. Just
like a decoration. So it's like
odd, but I like it. Really, like an old tattered window with like foggy glass or something.
Really weird. Very. Yeah, I could definitely see that on your porch.
yeah. It looked good.
All right, I'm kind of tired of talking about houses.
Yeah, I'm tired of talking to you. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Over.